Okay, last video, I hope, for solutions. This is types of solutions 2. All right, and so in this one, what we're going to look at some of the solubility charts, okay? And so you guys can feel hopefully a little bit more comfortable with these kind of charts. What we're looking at here, let me adjust this just a little bit. Okay. The way you guys are going to read these graphs, temperature is down here on the x-axis, and you guys know that as we go up this line, we're increasing the temperature. This should say 100 over here. We're increasing the temperature, okay? Now over here, this is going to be the solubility of these salts that are here on this chart per 100 grams of water. Or remember, 100 grams, we can also say 100 milliliters of water, right? Now, you can see that this one here decreases as we increase temperature, and so does, I think that's the only one on here. Yeah, okay, it's the only one we see on here. It decreases. But other than that, generally, and we already talked about this, we know that as you increase temperature, we typically increase solubility, okay? So here's a couple of things you need to know. This line, so every time you see one of these lines, okay, the line is the line of saturation, okay? So if it's on the line, this is the point of saturation, okay? So if I'm looking at this, okay, at 20 degrees C, okay, I'm going to follow this all the way up. So we're looking here at lead nitrate, okay? So at 20 degrees C, I would have about, what, 57 grams? So we would say for lead nitrate, at 20 degrees C, it is saturated with 57 grams, okay, in 100 mLs of water. All right. Now, at the same temperature, at 20 degrees C, anything below this line is going to be unsaturated, okay? And if I told you that it was above it, if I told you that it had 60 grams, it would be supersaturated, okay? So let's look at here at, so let's say this. Let me give you a question. So let's say at 50 degrees C, how much, let's look at this one. Let's do K2Cr2O7. So this is potassium dichromate is in a solution that is unsaturated, supersaturated, and just plain saturated, okay? So let's look at our chart. So the first thing we said it's at 50 degrees. So let's find the 50 degrees. Here's 50 degrees. This is our line right here for potassium dichromate. So I'm going to follow this line up, and I'm going to put a dot right here. Feel free to mark on your charts when you have them, okay? This right here, remember, if it's on the line, it represents the point, so again, it's potassium chromate, right? Dichromate. It represents the point of saturation. This is at exactly 30 grams. So for it to be a saturated solution, I would have 30 grams, okay? So I can dump 30 grams into a beaker of 100 mils of water, stir it up, and it's all going to dissolve, okay? So now, how much can we have for it to be an unsaturated solution? Anything below 30 grams. You can put 29, you can put 28, you can put 27, you can go all the way down here to 10. Anything below this is going to be unsaturated. So I'm going to say less than 30 grams. Okay, so I'll put 25 here. And then for it to be a supersaturated solution, okay, it's going to have to be anything over this line. So up here, up here, up here, it doesn't really matter where it is. So this is going to be greater than 30 grams. Okay. All right. I hope that that explains a little bit of what we're looking at. If we're looking at this chart, though, let's talk about one other thing. Okay. Which compound on this chart is the most soluble at? Which one is the most soluble at 10 degrees? So if I asked you the most soluble at 10 degrees, we're going to go to 10 degrees here, and we're going to look, and we're going to see which one I can have the most grams, okay? So this first one here, I can only have, what, 5 grams, 7 grams, about 20. So as we follow this line up, the compound that we hit at the very height of this is going to be sodium nitrate. That one there is going to be the most soluble, and we can have 80 grams of sodium nitrate. Everybody else in that has less, okay? Now, at 10 degrees C, which one is the least soluble? Well, the first one we hit is potassium chlorate. So this one is going to end up being the least soluble, okay? So at 10 degrees, most soluble is going to be NaNO3 because it can hold the most, and the least is going to be potassium chlorate. Okay. Which one on this chart changes the least? So no matter how much we change the temperature, which one do we see the least change in? In this case, we're going to say this is if you look at here, this is your line for sodium chloride. This line is pretty flat. It starts off at about 34 and it ends at about maybe 40. That's not a very big change. That's only about, what, 6 grams change. So sodium chloride is as soluble at 10 degrees, almost as soluble as it's going to be if you up the temperature to 100 degrees. Okay? So by a factor of 10, your solubility doesn't change very much, no matter how much we increase the temperature. Okay? Which one changes the most and has the biggest change in solubility? If I'm looking at this right now, I would probably guess it would be this potassium nitrate, because if you look, it starts all the way down here at about, what, 13, and by the time we get to, and this is maybe the least change in the smallest temperature, but this is going to get up to about 90 grams. So this is the biggest change that we're going to see. Okay. If you have any other questions, find your chemistry teacher.